Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Broads. We are broadcasting live from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. Now it's Tuesday. Things are starting to settle in. You heard Doug Peterson speak on Monday. You heard Jim Schwartz speak today. And I always find it interesting hearing coaches speak after a performance, specifically when it was a bad performance. And I like to wonder what life would be like if no matter what your job is, when you screw up, you need to sit in front of, let's say, 50 people, and they ask you questions and they drill you about what you did wrong, right? Like, what are you supposed to do if you stand up there and they go, Broach, let's say I work at Dunkin' Donuts. Broach, at 11:59 on Tuesday, someone came in pissed off because they wanted French vanilla and you gave them a caramel mocha latte. What did you do? It wasn't my best day. I didn't have my caffeine in the morning. I didn't get the proper breakfast, and we'll attack tomorrow with a different mentality. Like, what? I always think it's just so funny to think about, getting crucified for making horrendous decisions and having to stand up. But then you talk about how much money they're getting paid. It's part of the business, yada, yada, yada. I'm just trying to have some fun with it. Someone asked me a very interesting question, and I think it's a perfect way to mold this conversation. How do I feel about that game? How should Eagles fans feel about that loss? And I know everyone's going to have their own opinions on it, right? But someone asked me specifically, how did you feel about that loss? And the way I look at it is, the better team won. In the NFL, I know that there are crazy games and wild things happen, and the most cliche answer in the world is any given Sunday, right? We've heard it a billion times before, and we saw it this week when Miami did what they did, when the Vegas Raiders did what they did against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I understand that a team that has less talent can win. But more times than not, the team with better talent, the better squad, the team that has more confidence as a unit, they're going to win more times than not. And that's exactly what happened. So I hate to be the moral victory guy, but it's a moral victory type of season with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 1-3-1 through 5 games. They're not that good of a football team this year. With that being said, they went on the road to Pittsburgh, who was 3-0 at the time because they had that wonky bye week. So they're 3-0. They're undefeated. They have a stellar defense. They stop the run. They make you one-dimensional. And the offense, who we've been screaming about getting going, we needed flow. We needed some sort of rhythm in this offense. We didn't have it through the first 4 weeks. Finally getting it against that type of defense, there's your moral victory. The first couple of weeks, we were questioning, who's Carson Wentz? What happened to this guy? We thought we had a quarterback that was way better than the worst QBR in the league. Well, second worst, because at the time, Kirk Cousins was behind him. He was one above. The most important position in all of sports, the quarterback. We didn't know what the hell we had. And to be fair, we still don't have the full-on answer, but we are seeing him take steps in the right direction. And you can't succeed unless you have that position locked in. So right now, based off of how the season started, my eyes and my focus, while they're on other elements with this team as well, the quarterback, Carson Wentz, that's huge. It's huge, and I need to see him take steps. So, you know what? The defense that doesn't have a linebacking core at all, they struggled. The opposite side of Darius Slay struggled. The safety next to Rodney McLeod struggled. Guess what? When you have Marcus Epps and when you have Jalen Mills, who's just the kind of guy, and when you don't have a linebacker at all, you don't have a linebacking core at all, why do you expect more? How much more can you expect? That's like looking at a dog and saying, hey, damn it, fly! Why aren't you flying? Well, hold on a second. Maybe they just can't. Getting mad at Nate Gary and some of these other players, they just can't. And then once again, it all goes back to the bigger issues with roster construction. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine that's ready to freak out and fire Jim Schwartz, and I can't stand him. And I look back and I said, okay, look, in 2017, his defense was 4th in points per game. In 2018, 9th in points per game. Last season, I don't remember if I said the years right. 2017, it was 4th. 2018, it was 9th. And 2019 was 15. So each year, it's going in the different direction, obviously, but players are getting older. The injuries intensified big time. I've seen Jim Schwartz succeed. I've seen his Y9 succeed with the front four getting pressure when the proper personnel is in place. I think Jim Schwartz is going to go at the end of the season. There's no reason to fire a defensive coordinator right now. Bad organizations do that. The Atlanta Falcons do that. Who else just fired one of their main guys? They fired their head coach, of course, but who else just got canned? Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien, they're a dumpster fire. You bring in an interim defensive coordinator, you don't switch the scheme around and change all this stuff. The roster is built, and I use air quotes because there's so many flaws defensively. They're built to play the wide 9. The structure and the way the money is spent on that defensive line, it's built for the pressure up front. There's no other way to utilize this team at the moment. At the end of the season, fine. I'm okay with change. I think defensive coordinator position, Jim Schwartz, I think he's a good defensive coordinator in this league. He's been in the league for 20 years. He didn't succeed as a head coach. That's fine. I don't think he brings that other element like Doug Peterson brings. He doesn't have that side to him as a head coach. But as a defensive coordinator, I think he is a very solid defensive coordinator. There's better. He's not elite, but he's a good defensive coordinator in this league. With proper personnel, he knows how to handle business. And you saw that. 2017, 4th best defense in points per game. Top 10 in defensive points per game in 2018. It's not pretty. He doesn't bring a lot of blitzes. He plays the sticks. It's not a pretty way to play. It's an effective way to play. But I'm willing to have change. I'm not against having change. I just bring this up because when things go wrong, people just want to fire everybody. That's their solution. Get rid of everybody. Fire Brett Brown. Fire Doug Peterson. Bring in Jalen Hurts. Carson Wentz sucks. Fire Jim Schwartz. Fire Howie Roseman. Fire Gabe Kapler, although I thought the Kapler one was very reasonable. Fire Matt Klentak, I thought that was reasonable. But do you get my point? It's like every time something bad happens, it's fire this guy, fire that guy, fire this guy. Sean Payton and Drew Brees went 7-9 a couple years in a row, didn't make the playoffs, and now, although this year it looks a little weird because Drew Brees is getting older in his career, but they're always in the conversation to win it all. John Harbaugh, who is doing great with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. He was on the hot seat because he failed for a couple years to make some noise. Coaches are going to struggle. Good coaches go through spurts of poor play. Unless you're Bill Belichick. But you can't compare this staff or any other organization to what Bill Belichick does. I bring this up because I'm hard on Doug Peterson. I'm hard on Jim Schwartz. I'm hard on these guys. But it doesn't mean the answers automatically can him. Now, once again, I think Jim Schwartz is going to be gone at the end of the year because if they underachieve and they are what they are. I mean, it's not if they underachieve. They are going to underachieve. They're going to make a change, and it won't be Doug Peterson, and it won't be Carson Wentz. So it's going to be Jim Schwartz by default, but that doesn't mean he's a bad coordinator. It's just, hey, we need some change. It's been 5 years. We're going in this direction. We need to kind of spark things up a bit, and that's fine. Once again, I'm not opposed to that type of change, but to think that he blows and he's bad, it's just not reality. He's had bad decisions. He has flaws, just like any coach. But I've seen coaches in this league, successful coaches, go through times where things aren't pretty. maybe something like having a quarterback on a bigger contract, salary cap issues. There is so much involved on why a team struggles. When you look at this team, they just don't have a good enough talent. So to get back to the original question, how should you feel about the game? How do I feel about the game? I went moral victory. They battled. They battled their ass off. Travis Fulgham, who the hell is this kid? Came out of nowhere. Let's see if he continues to be a stud. Teams now have film on him. I can't believe I'm ready to say this, but I am. He's going to be scouted and looked at heavily, and they're going to put their guys on him to force him to make plays. Unless they go with the philosophy of, this kid isn't legit. Let's make him make those plays first, and then we will adjust. Almost like, okay, look, you had that game, but is that really who you are? Prove to me that's who you are, and then we'll put someone on you and intensify the coverage a bit. We'll see. The thing is, though, it's not like there's many other weapons involved. Zach Ertz has been poor. And then what? Greg Ward. At this moment of recording, I don't really have knowledge on the Alshon Deshaun type of nonsense that is reoccurring every single week when it comes to this offense. So I go with the moral victory, and I think that's fair. I think you need to understand what type of team is in the city at the moment, who they are, their identity, and I got to look at Carson Wentz because he's the big thing for me. Big picture, it's about Carson Wentz, and the way that it was so early on, it was so disturbing, ugly. I didn't think that's who he truly was. We had to get him back on the right track, and right now, with these practice squad guys, he's playing phenomenal football again. I look at that game, and I thought no matter what the stats say, no matter what the box score says afterwards, I thought he put on a hell of a performance. He was one of the reasons why that team was in position to win the football game. They scored 29 points. And just to bring up the Jim Schwartz thing again, you know, when I was going back and forth with my buddy about it, one of the things he said is, it's been 2.5 years of just non-game planning football defensively. Last year in the playoffs, the Seattle Seahawks came to town and scored 17 points. 17 points. This was last year. That gave Josh McCown a chance to win the football game. Don't tell me Jim Schwartz is a bad defensive coordinator. Everyone wants to bring up that 4th and long play that happened a few years ago against Carolina. Do you not remember Corey Graham? The guy just flat out made a horrendous mental mistake. Sticks are annoying. They're frustrating. I get it. But when the guy out there doesn't execute the sticks, you're not going to do anything good. You're not going to succeed that way. The guy just made a huge mental error. The player didn't execute. I don't like the sticks fully. It's not appealing to the eye. It works, though. And other teams use it. Other teams use the same method. You just don't have the heavy focus on those teams because you're not as emotionally tied. I have some leftover anytime hotline calls that I want to get to reacting to this Eagles-Steelers game. First, I want to tell you about a couple things. So I actually started because people have been reaching out to me. Hey, Broads, how can I support? How can I help? And I went down the road of starting the membership page on my YouTube channel. So there's a couple different tiers right now. The $4.99 a month tier allows you to reach out to me. We can talk about some podcast ideas that you have for Sports Talk with Bro. So if you have some great ideas for some podcasts that I could do, I'm open to all input and all opinions on that. So that would be the first tier. The second tier, we will have like a monthly live stream, a monthly video chat with all of the members of that tier, and we can hang out for one day a month. I'll set the date. I'll give you all the information, and we'll just kind of kick back, hang out with Broads type deal. That's in the second tier. And the third tier is $19.99 a month, and you can send me yourself like a selfie video asking a question, talking about the birds, and I'll actually implement the full-on video so you can make the podcast visually as well. And if you have, like, let's say you have the biggest tier, that snowballs into, so you have all three tiers. You can also send podcast ideas, and you can also send the you can also join the video chats as well. So I did it because a lot of people reached out to me. They kind of want to help with the show and support Sports Talk with Bros, which I'm already baffled that it's at the point that it is today. I hit record numbers for the Anytime Hotline after the Steelers game. It's mind-blowing, and it makes me tear up sometimes thinking I built this, and the support is just on another level. It's all because of you. So I can't thank all of you so much for tuning in every single day. It tears me up. So one more message before we get to the Anytime Hotline calls. Go to BetQL.com if you're into sports betting or you're trying to get into sports betting and you want all the information that you need when it comes to making a proper, educated decision before hitting that button and putting money into games. Go to BetQL.com. Use promo code BROADS20 for 20% off of your first payment. They give you all the analysis for each game, the trends, the data, the information you are looking for. So, look, I made an educated bet heading into a match. The money line, the spread, it has all the trends for both of those, the over, under, the first half lines, you name it. And there's so much data where it comes to breaking down who they think is going to win and player props, everything. Promo code BROADS20 at BetQL.com for 20% off of your first payment. You ready to rock into some of these calls? I can't wait. Remember, these are reactionary. I mean, you're talking moments after the game, and I think that's the best way to do it because, while I get that there's an element of getting a couple days of sleep, addressing the game, and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Digesting what happened. I think there's value in that too, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I also love just reacting to the raw stuff as well because it's funny.
That was absolutely embarrassing by Jim Schwartz. I don't even know anymore, dude. Nate Gary, this bum needs to be cut yesterday, and Schwartz, I don't know. He needs to be gone too.
Seems speechless. Doesn't really know what to say. Can't comprehend what happened. And I figure that there's going to be a lot of Jim Schwartz hate in these phone calls because that's where a lot of the attention went to after the game, and that is very fair considering that this Eagles team put up enough points to win offensively, and the defense was horrendous. And you keep talking about that last play. What happened? Nate Gary, why was he there? Big Ben, he kind of told Juju, hey, go this way, pull Rodney McLeod out, Claypool, come here, let's attack. But you got to remember, you had some cornerback issues during that play. Darius Slay is now in concussion protocol. There were so many factors. Should there have been a timeout call? Probably. That's the most realistic thing that could have happened was call a timeout. When you see a matchup that is that horrendous, somebody needs to call timeout because I know you're saving the timeout to make the play offensively when you get the football back, if you get the football back. But if you get it back without the score being reasonable to approach a victory, well, then the timeout doesn't mean anything. So realistically, when I now look at that play over and over again, and I'm seeing breakdowns on Twitter and what could have happened here, what should have happened here, Rodney McLeod, this and that, call timeout and get a better matchup because Big Ben just picked it apart. And unfortunately, when he looked along the line fully, every single play, he could have picked up a matchup that he liked. Big Ben's IQ, awesome. But also, when it comes to personnel, every single matchup, it favored the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's only so much you can do when that's the case. And once again, that's why I go back to moral victory.
Hey, bro, this is Don calling from Las Vegas. Love your videos, man. Keep up the good work. I always look forward to them.
Thank you.
Nathan Gary. I can't even think straight right now. You put Nathan Gary on Chase Claypool. That just says it all. That cost us the game. That was a real killer. I thought Travis Fulgham had a good game. Thought the defensive line got good pressure. Reason why we're leading in sacks.
I will counter that. I think to this point they had a lot of pressure. I don't know necessarily if they did enough in that game. That's how Jim Schwartz's scheme works. You got to get pressure up front. And I thought Big Ben and the Steelers offense did a good job at getting the ball out quick, which would then force the Eagles to not really have that pressure. That's how they thrive. That's how they make their money. That's how they be so effective. They get to the quarterback. I don't necessarily think in this game that defensive line was good enough for my liking.
Just Jim Schwartz, just that man-to-man, just this is why we don't go so sorry at the linebacker's position, and we should pick up someone else or just put anybody else out there.
Interesting you bring that up. So, I'm big on, you don't really have any pieces. It's not like the alternatives are these great linebackers that the Eagles are just not utilizing. Well, watching Greg Ward and watching Travis Fulgham and watching those players come in and being effective, is there something to Sean Bradley that we haven't seen yet? Is there something to Davion Taylor? Apparently, Davion Taylor is such a project. They knew that going into this thing. He was a third-round draft pick that they understood wouldn't get on the field at all. But I saw Sean Bradley make a nice couple of tackles in his very limited play. Is there something to be said about, Nate Gary doesn't work? Go with something else, because maybe that dog mentality, that I got to prove myself mentality is enough at this point to override the, hey, Nate Gary has been playing more. He's been playing more. It's not like he's been effective more, though. His confidence is clearly shot, and when you don't have confidence, especially in this league, it is what it is. Nate Gary, as the guy who comes in for a handful of snaps here and there, okay. Playing 100% of the snaps, it just can't happen anymore. So based off of what I've seen at the position at wide receiver with these practice squad guys, I think at this point you have to find another way to get some of these players in. But then it comes down to, okay, well, with COVID, you don't have as much of a training camp. And do these players, these new rookies, do they know a lot of the playbook? Do they know enough of the playbook to be able to be good enough? And you can argue it's got to be better than Nate Gary. Can't be much worse.
Hey, bros. I'm not even mad. We played a really good defense. Our defense gave up a lot of points. That last touchdown they scored, we put Nate and Gary on a guy that already scored 3 touchdowns on us. There was no safety. That Carson Wentz interception, I feel like it was his fault, but then there was a legal contact on Zach Ertz. And speaking about Zach Ertz, it's almost like he's given no effort. Like, he's not even trying. He's not trying, honestly. It's sad. Our best wide receiver is a guy that's been cut 4 times and a guy that played quarterback in college. But, yeah, I'm not mad because we tried, I guess.
I think that's great. I think that's great. I think that's the way to kind of approach this situation. Whether you like it or not, it's they went out there saying they tried makes it seem a little bit cornier, but I'm with you on the whole mindset. Look, they were undermanned. They're not as good, and they went out there and they kept you in it. They were down. They were down a decent amount, and what did they do? Carson Wentz, Travis Fulgham, they went on a drive and scored a couple touchdowns to keep you in it. That is a big sign for a quarterback that has been struggling so much. That's what I need to see. That's what I value more than wins and losses right now, because not that I write this season off. I'm never one of those guys, but I understand where they are compared to the league, and I think Carson Wentz is a big, big piece that we need to focus on. Zach Ertz, though, that is so interesting. Doug Peterson mentioned how he did take a shot at Zach Ertz, but he also mentioned that Carson Wentz missed Ertz a couple of times that he probably should have hit, whether they schemed open Zach Ertz in the red zone or other parts of the game. Carson Wentz missed him, and that is true. There's no denying that Carson Wentz had some opportunities to hit some players, and specifically Zach Ertz. Maybe there's some frustration there, but it's all about the optics, the body language, the I quit mentality. That's what it looks like right now. You can miss a throw, miss a catch, get up, and have a different swagger about you, have a different personality about you. And we've seen it. That's the thing. We've seen Zach Ertz with that mentality before of, hey, next play. Don't worry about it. I'll get the next one, whatever the case may be. And this looks like he's defeated. He's unhappy. He doesn't like it here. He doesn't feel like playing football. And that's where I have the big issues with Zach Ertz. Dallas Goedert is not on the field. So Dallas Goedert not being on the field and you still look this way? It's crazy. I know they focus on Zach Ertz, but it's not enough to shut him down the way that he is being shut down now.
You know, I'm left with one word at the end of this game, Hunter, and that word is arrogance. I mean, we have had a linebacker problem in this organization, not just this year, not just last year, the year before, for seemingly decades. And today's loss is the end result of being arrogant to your fan base and thinking you can fill a legitimate defensive position with any type of garbage that comes through the NovaCare. And can you explain to me how on a 3rd and long you match Nate Gary one-on-one against anybody, let alone the one guy who's been kicking your ass, who probably could have had 5 touchdowns today if not for a BS pass interference call? I mean, Travis Fulgham, my hat off to you. That kid played his ass off today in defeat. But once again, when you play a legitimate team, you see what the Eagles are. Very flawed defensively, too many mistakes offensively, and another loss at the end.
You know, it's funny you say that because it's crazy how flawed they are, how close they were to winning this game as well. Now, that's not a recipe for success, but it is true, though. They are so flawed, yet against the Pittsburgh Steelers team, they did kind of fight in there, and they had an opportunity to steal it, without a doubt. I don't look at this game as, man, they had a chance and they lost it. Like, I thought that they had a chance to steal it, and they didn't steal it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are, underwhelming or anything like that. It's just kind of who they are based off of their personnel. And with the linebacking core, they actually have 0 linebackers. And it's crazy to think that you could head into an NFL season. And we all knew it. We all discussed it. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, and I don't know if anybody else thought it was going to be this bad, but they actually just did not even think about a whole entire position, and you can argue that that position is the captain of the defense. So it is mind-blowing that an organization as a whole was like, you know what? Let's just drop it. Let's just forget it. That's weird. That's odd, and I don't know how you can win football games when you have such a big hole up the middle. And we talk about tight ends every week, right? There's so many tight ends in this league. It's a copycat league. The tight end is important. Good luck, linebackers. It's a shame.
Hey, what's good, bro? I've been a fan for a while. I want to talk about today's game. I mean, it's a good-ass game, not going to lie, but when it came down to the wire, this team choked. I think the play call by Jim Schwartz was probably the worst thing you could have done, putting Nate Gary on, I can't remember his name, that best receiver that they had, scored 4 TDs. Crazy, man.
You don't remember the name. Interesting. I appreciate you supporting me for a long time. Guy goes off like that. You got to know who Claypool is. You say you choked. Let's hear the beginning of this again, because I want to get to the choke part.
Hey, what's good, bro? I've been a fan for a while.
Thank you.
I want to talk about today's game. I mean, it's a good-ass game, not going to lie, but when it came down to the wire, this team choked.
Is that defensively? I guess I don't know which direction you were going into. Did they choke offensively when they went for that field goal? They could, like, if they scored a touchdown on that drive after the turnover, it's possibly a totally different outcome and a totally different mindset for the rest of the game. Did they choke there, or did they choke at the end? I guess maybe I'll lean towards you assuming they choked at the end based off of you going into Nate Gary being matched up with Claypool. Did they choke, or are they just not that great, right? Did they just go up against a team that's better than them?
Yo, what's up, bros? It's Q from VA again. I can't even be upset with the fact that we lost. I'm more so just clarified about what this team is. We played a bunch of mediocre teams with mediocre quarterbacks, and we lost. Now we play a team with a good quarterback, a good coach, a great defense, and we lose. It's kind of 2 plus 2 for me, knowing that we don't have the offensive personnel to really make something happen. We don't really have the defensive personnel in terms of secondary. The front seven is good, but we're just not good enough. We don't have the talent. We've been wasting our drafts for 4 years, and now it's caught up to us.
I think that's a great call, really. I think that's a great call. You nailed it. You go up against mediocre teams. You're losing to those teams. They lost to the Washington football team, who was an absolute joke. But look, when you have the quarterback playing that bad and that poor early on, you're not going to win. When it comes to the defense that game, I know everyone wants to look at the points per game and all that. Well, guess what? When your quarterback turned the ball over so many damn times and the Washington football team was getting the ball at your 20, at your 25, at your 30 consistently, they're going to score touchdowns. That's how this league works. So you go up against mediocre teams and you lose. You go up against a team that has talent, and Big Ben picks the defense apart because you don't have proper personnel. And it's not even that. Like, look, Darius Slay, he was picking on Darius Slay. Big Ben trusted his matchup there and himself. He was picking on guys that were good as well. Like, when I say the personnel is bad, it doesn't mean every single person is bad, but players are getting older. Fletcher Cox is now older. Brandon Graham is now older. You're getting older in spots with guys that you relied on. That doesn't mean they stink, but they're not 3 years ago. They're not the version that they were 3 years ago. Big Ben was even picking on those players, though. Not them two specifically, but Darius Slay, a good player in this league. He wasn't afraid of anyone, and that's what Hall of Fame type quarterbacks do. Hall of Famers. That's what they do. They find a matchup, they trust in themselves, and they trust in their weapons as well. We got a bunch more calls to get to. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm even going to be able to utilize all the calls this week, which is kind of overwhelming, but at the same time, I want to get to them all. Let's take another.
Hey, Rhodes. So I'm not necessarily mad that we lost this game, but I think there's some bright spots. Travis Fulgham was a fucking beast. He did really well, but honest to God, fire fucking Nate Gary. This dude is not an NFL linebacker. I can't believe this man's getting snaps over Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley. What the fuck? It's so frustrating to watch. You put your worst cover linebacker on Chase fucking Claypool, who's been roasting us the entire game.
You know what's interesting? Nate Gary was supposed to be great at covering. That's what he was supposed to be. Safety, moving into the linebacker spot, and to an extent, that's how the NFL has moved. It moved into, this safety linebacker mix. You saw Malcolm Jenkins do it a lot. That's kind of the identity. Not so much like Marcus Epps, Nate Gary, but you get my point. He's supposed to be good at that, and he is arguably the worst of the entire league, so it's clearly not working out whatsoever. It's crazy.
Say his name, bro. Say his name. Travis Fulgham is a beast. It's just super exciting to see an explosive receiver like that. I hope he can maintain this level of success as the weeks go on. But, bottom line is defense has got to play good when the offense is playing good, and it just doesn't seem like they can play good at the same time right now. So,
great point. They either have a great offensive game, defense gets shelled, defense plays well, the offense can't move the ball. But I'll say his name, Travis Fulgham. We'll end on a positive note. We know how frustrating the defense was and that Nate Gary play was, and Jim Schwartz was underwhelming. But let's end on a good note. Travis Fulgham was going up and getting the football, and I just think this needs to be stressed more than it is. The fact that the Steelers forced the Eagles to be so one-dimensional by eliminating that run game completely. It's not easy to then throw when the Steelers know you're going to throw, and for Wentz and Fulgham to be on target the way that they were on target. He was going up. He was getting the ball. One-on-one battles. He was getting separation. He was making moves out there, and he was utilizing his skill set. I can't get over the fact that I was watching him go up and grab a football at the highest point. It was crazy to me. It was so crazy to me. And just like that was crazy, I know I said I want to end on a positive note, but clearly I'm getting sucked down the other road. It's crazy to me that Fletcher Cox on 3rd and 9 goes offsides to make it 3rd and 4. It's crazy to me that Crayvon LeBlanc misses a 3rd and short tackle, which would force the Steelers to punt. And instead, here comes an end-around play for 50-plus yards, which is a common theme. It's on tape now that the Eagles will give up that play. That needs to be fixed by Jim Schwartz. He needs to find a way to make sure that this defense doesn't bite on that type of move, because Baltimore, it's not going to be easier when it comes to what they do and their formations and how they utilize the run game and who they give the ball to. It's going to be wild. It's crazy to me what happened on those third down plays. Face mask. I don't remember if that face mask was a 3rd down play or not by Brandon Graham, although he argued it didn't happen. You couldn't see the replay because of the abysmal broadcast, so it is what it is. But we're moving along through the week, slowly starting to transition from what was and moving into what's next, which is scary. And we'll see. We'll see how this team addresses the situation, how they try and come up with a game plan to stop a Baltimore Ravens team who can win the Super Bowl. Thank you all so much for listening. This episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, tree removals, emergency services, electrical upgrades, and plenty more. If you are looking to add to your home, make sure you reach out to Orbit Energy and Power. Their information is down below along with their phone number. Thank you all so much, and I will see you next time.